She slid the envelope under the bathroom door while I was brushing my teeth. No words. No knock. Just the soft scratch of paper against tile. It wasn't sealed. Not even folded right. One edge still had a sticky note stuck to it that said, "Don't overreact." I opened it with shaking hands, foamy toothpaste still in my mouth. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Typed. Signed. Dated. She'd already filed. No fight. No warning. No awkward therapy session where she cried halfway through and said, "We've drifted." Just paperwork. I spat, rinsed, and stared at my own face in the mirror. I didn't recognize the guy looking back. Pale. Sleep-deprived. Beard uneven. I used to care more, I think. But for the past 8 months, I'd been walking around like a ghost in my own life, trying to avoid setting her off. And she still blindsided me. But here's the messed up part. When I finished reading the last line, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I knew something she didn't know I knew. 2 weeks ago, she forgot to log out of her Gmail on the iPad. I wasn't snooping. I was checking our Amazon orders. But her inbox popped up, and there it was. How much longer do I have to pretend? Sent to a contact saved as Rachel Work at 2:14 a.m. There is no Rachel at her job. I screenshotted everything. Quietly. I didn't say a word. I didn't even close the app. I just let the silence build between us, day by day, while she smiled fake smiles and kissed my forehead like she hadn't already made other plans. So now, standing in the bathroom with her cheap envelope and her post-it note, I did what she never expected. I took a long breath and whispered, "Let's play, Leanne." Because if she wanted a war, she should have waited until I was still weak. That night, I didn't confront her. I didn't even mention the envelope. I just slid it back under her bedroom door, but I added something of my own, a photocopy of the email. The one to Rachel Work. I didn't attach a note. I wanted the silence to speak louder than anything I could have written. Around midnight, I heard her open the door. She didn't knock. Didn't say a word. Just stood there in the dark hallway, breathing. Then footsteps back to her room. The next morning, the envelope was gone. But so was her usual smugness. She didn't wear makeup. She didn't make her mushroom coffee. She didn't play that indie playlist she usually blasted on Saturday mornings while pretending to center herself. She looked unsettled, almost like a kid who got caught shoplifting but still swears they didn't do it. She didn't ask what I'd seen. She didn't know how much I knew, which was perfect, because I'd only shown her one email. But I had 6. One of them was a hotel reservation under his name, but charged to her card. She really thought I wouldn't notice that extra $197 on our statement? She labeled it Self-Care Retreat. I checked the address. It was a 2-star place off the interstate next to a gas station sushi joint. Real classy. She didn't even bother to hide it well. That's what stung the most. Not just the cheating, the laziness of it all. But here's where things shifted from emotional devastation to something more surgical. While she was busy pretending everything was fine, I was busy making moves. I emailed our accountant. I separated our joint checking into 2 accounts. I transferred every cent of my freelance income and backdated invoices to a private account she didn't know existed. Not illegal, just timely. I also called my buddy Drew. He's a real estate attorney, and told him I wanted to move fast on something very specific, getting my name off her condo. See, the place was in both our names, but she had paid for it before the marriage. I'd been helping with the mortgage since, and if this went to court, it would get messy. So I offered her what she wanted, her place back. Clean and simple. She signed the quitclaim like it was a favor to herself. Didn't realize she was also giving up the only asset with positive equity between us. She thought she was being slick, that she was in control. But what she didn't know, while she was busy plotting how to walk away and land in someone else's arms, I was already erasing every handhold she thought she had in mind. She still had no idea that Rachel Work wasn't just a fake name. It was a fake account, one that I had created using a burner SIM and a Gmail I set up 6 weeks ago after noticing the late-night calls and weird behavior. She'd been writing back to me the entire time. She started dressing nicer that week. Subtly, like she wanted to be noticed but not questioned. Not the full glam look, just enough mascara, lip gloss, and that one perfume she used to reserve for date nights. Worn now to go grocery shopping. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Because every time she texted her little secret affair partner, thinking she was getting more clever, she was just writing more material for me. The account I'd made, the fake Rachel Work, Gmail she thought belonged to her secret man. It wasn't just bait. It was a trap designed to see just how deep she'd go. And Leanne? She dove headfirst. She told him things she'd never said to me in 11 years of marriage. Milo doesn't challenge me. He's like a houseplant. Quiet, safe, easy to forget. That one hurt. I reread it 4 times, sitting in the car outside CVS, hands shaking. But it also told me something else. She wasn't in love. She was bored. And bored people get sloppy. So I gave her what she wanted. Through Rachel, I played the perfect bad boy. Cold, aloof, sarcastic, just enough danger to make her feel like a rebel. I suggested meeting again. She agreed. Same place as before, she wrote. I didn't answer. I wanted her to sweat. For 3 days, I said nothing. And on the 4th, she cracked. She texted me, as in, her husband, Milo, while I was upstairs, just 2 rooms away. Hey, thinking we should talk soon about us. Us. Suddenly I mattered again. I didn't answer that either. Instead, I took a quiet little detour of my own. That same night, I messaged her sister, Quinn. We hadn't talked in months. But she always liked me more than she liked Leanne. And I'd seen the little look she gave me at Christmas, back when she pulled me aside and said, "You deserve better. You know that, right?" So I asked if she wanted to meet for coffee. Just to talk. Strictly platonic. She said yes instantly. I didn't do anything shady. Not yet. But I made sure Leanne saw the name Quinn pop up on my phone. I saw her glance at the screen, freeze, then quickly pretend she hadn't. Jealousy. A flicker of it, at least. The next day, she called out of work. Sat on the couch in silence. I could feel the energy shift. Like she didn't want the divorce anymore, but couldn't figure out how to take it back without losing face. She looked trapped. But that wasn't the part that thrilled me. What thrilled me was what came next. That night, she tried to log into her secret email account and found it locked. Password changed. Recovery email disabled. All control gone. Because now, I owned everything. I could hear her typing furiously in the other room. I knew exactly what she was doing, trying to reset the password on the fake email account. Probably pacing, biting her nails, sweating in that quiet panic she always hid behind her polished yoga goddess exterior. But she was too late. I had changed every password, encrypted the contents, and copied the most damning messages into a private cloud folder, locked with 2-factor authentication she could never touch. I didn't need revenge porn, screenshots of her with anyone, or anything remotely shady. I just needed her words. Her betrayal, in her own voice, lovingly typed to the man she thought was her escape hatch. The very next morning, she finally said something. Over toast. I was scrolling through job listings, not because I needed a new one, but because I wanted her to think I might move. She was buttering her bread with robotic precision when she asked, "Are you still planning to talk to a lawyer?" Her voice cracked. Just a little. I didn't look up. I just said, "Already did." Which was a lie. But I knew the seed was planted. That night, I actually did speak to one. Not because I wanted to destroy her financially. Although, if I'm honest, the thought crossed my mind. But because I wanted to protect myself. Because if this went to court and she tried to make it ugly, I wanted documentation, leverage, strategy. Turns out, in our state, written evidence of infidelity, even emotional affairs, can significantly influence alimony decisions if it shows intentional deceit and damage to the marriage. And let me tell you, when your wife writes, "I fake every smile at home. I'm just waiting for the papers to clear," that's not ambiguous. I didn't tell her I knew any of that. Instead, I let her unravel herself. I accidentally left a manila folder on the kitchen table labeled Asset Review/Legal Strategy. Inside, blank paper, completely empty. But the title did the damage. She stared at it for a full minute, didn't say a word, then left the house without her purse. That night, she texted me from the car. "Can we talk? I'm feeling confused about everything." Confused? No, Leanne. You were starting to realize the game wasn't rigged in your favor anymore. Still, I agreed to talk. Calmly. Over tea. I let her pretend to initiate it. She sat across from me, hands wrapped around her mug, and said things like, "I don't know if this is what I really want," and "maybe we rushed into the idea of divorce," as if the whole thing had been a mutual misunderstanding. I just nodded. Let her talk. And then I asked, very softly, "Would you be willing to sign a revised separation agreement if I gave you the condo back?" She blinked, like a glitch in her system. Why? She asked. Because I want out clean. And if you're really unsure, this gives us both options. We can separate first. See what's worth saving. She agreed immediately. Thought she'd won something. Smiled even. She didn't realize that agreement, written by my lawyer, locked her out of alimony, tied her to full responsibility for the condo's mortgage, and most importantly, included a waiver clause preventing her from filing for retroactive claims if the divorce proceeded uncontested. She signed it 3 days later. I kept my face straight, but inside, I was screaming with satisfaction. Because now, she could cry, she could beg, she could even regret everything. But she couldn't undo what she'd just signed away. The first real crack came on a Wednesday. I'd just gotten home from a run, something I'd picked up again, not because I loved cardio, but because it gave me something she couldn't control. I came in through the back door, earbuds still in, and there she was, sitting on the floor in the hallway, knees pulled to her chest like a child. Her eyes were red. She looked like she hadn't slept. "Milo," she said, barely above a whisper. "I think I made a mistake." It didn't even register at first. My brain didn't believe it. This was the woman who handed me divorce papers without blinking, who flirted with a man she thought was her lover while I folded her laundry. And now, 5 weeks into her own plan, she was cracking? "I don't know what I'm doing," she said. "Everything feels wrong. I don't want to lose you like this." I stood in silence. Not because I had no words, but because I had too many. Anger, confusion, vindication, pity. But most of all, I had a plan, and I wasn't going to let emotion steer me off course. So I sat next to her on the floor and said the cruelest, honest thing I could think of. "You already lost me." She burst into tears. And for a second, just a second, I felt bad. Not because I wanted her back, but because I remembered what it felt like to be us, before it all went sideways. Before the late-night messages and cold shoulders. Before the months of silence disguised as politeness. We weren't always broken. But once she stepped outside our vows, she shattered something that no apology could repair. Still, she tried. Over the next few days, she morphed into some version of the woman I once loved. Cooking dinner, leaving notes, asking if I wanted to watch the shows we used to binge together. One night, she even curled up beside me on the couch like nothing had ever gone wrong. I didn't pull away, but I didn't lean in either. And when she tried to initiate more, her hand on my thigh, her voice low and almost pleading, I turned my head and said gently, "Don't." She looked at me like I'd slapped her. "I thought we were, maybe rebuilding," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "We're rebuilding, yeah? Just not in the same direction." Her face crumpled. But again, too late. Because what she didn't know, what I hadn't told her, was that I had already filed my version of the divorce papers. Clean, precise, and built on her own signed waiver. And the most painful part? I listed irreconcilable betrayal as the cause, a phrase she couldn't contest, because she'd already put it in writing to a man she thought she could trust. I wasn't punishing her out of spite. I was freeing myself out of survival. She didn't find out right away. I was careful. Everything filed quietly. My lawyer sent her a courtesy notification by certified mail, not email, not text. I didn't want a scene, I wanted impact. And it landed exactly the way I imagined. I was out front washing the car when the delivery van pulled up. She took the envelope without thinking, still wearing her fuzzy slippers and pretending like we were somehow slowly healing. I saw her eyes skim the label, freeze, then dart up to where I stood, hose still running in my hand. She didn't open it right away. She held it like it might explode. Then she walked back inside, door closing a little too hard behind her. 10 minutes later, I heard glass shatter. Then silence. When I walked in, she was at the dining table. The envelope was open. Her hands were trembling. Her voice was hollow. You filed?" I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just wiped my hands with the same towel I'd used on the windshield and sat across from her. "You said we could separate," she said, eyes wide like she was just now understanding the rules weren't hers anymore. "You said you weren't sure either." "I'm not," I replied. "But I'm sure I'm done being lied to." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. And that's when I saw it. That flicker of something I hadn't seen in years. Fear. Not panic. Not regret. Not even love. Just raw, helpless fear. Because she realized she had no leverage left. No high ground. No backup plan. Her affair had been with a fake account. Her financial angle, gone. Her emotional narrative, collapsing. You used my own words against me, she whispered. I nodded. No, you used them against yourself. I just copied and pasted. She stood up, paced the room like she wanted to peel out of her own skin, then suddenly turned and shouted, Why didn't you just confront me? Why'd you play these mind games instead? I shrugged. Because you only respond to drama when you think you're the director. This time, you're just part of the cast. She looked stunned, like I'd become someone else overnight. But I hadn't. I just stopped holding the pain inside like it was my job to protect her from it. Later that night, she tried a new tactic, softness. She brought me chamomile tea like she used to when we were dating, said she'd made a lot of mistakes, that she felt sick over everything, and didn't know why she'd sabotaged what we had. I didn't argue. I didn't even speak. I just sipped the tea and stared out the window like she wasn't there. Because honestly, she wasn't. Not the woman I married. Not the woman who laughed at my bad impressions and dragged me into thrift stores just to try on ridiculous hats. That person had left a long time ago. This version of her, manipulative, secretive, calculating, was a stranger with my wife's face. And now that she knew the paperwork was in motion, the begging had begun. But I'd already made up my mind. There was no undoing what she'd started. 2 days after she found out I filed, she disappeared. No goodbye, no warning, just a note on the counter that said, I need space. Please don't contact me. No destination, no timeline. Just that. For a moment, I thought she might be going to him. The real one, if there ever was one. Maybe she'd panicked, run into his arms, hoping someone out there could still make her feel like she hadn't destroyed everything. But deep down, I knew she had no one left. The only man she'd been emotionally confiding in was me. Or at least the version of me she thought was someone else. I'd baited her into emotional vulnerability, and she took the hook, line, and sinker, never realizing she was bearing her soul to the husband she already deemed disposable. She stayed gone for 4 days. I didn't reach out. Not once. I went about my week like I lived alone. In a way, I already did. I worked, slept, ate standing over the sink, walked around in silence, but it didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt earned. Then, early Saturday morning, the door slammed open like she'd never left. She stormed in, eyes wild, holding a thick yellow envelope. One of those manila ones that always means someone's about to try something dramatic. She threw it on the table and snapped. This is my counter. Inside was a complete reversal of her earlier agreement. New demands. She wanted the condo, half of my savings, spousal support for a year, and a clause that would legally block either of us from publicly disclosing the events leading up to the dissolution. She was trying to silence the narrative before it could turn against her. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that I'd already uploaded the full PDF archive of our fake email thread to my attorney the day she left. He'd submitted it with my filing as supplemental material. She'd already been flagged for deceit under oath for denying any ongoing relationship in her previous legal statement. I looked up at her and asked the only question that mattered. Are you sure you want to fight this in front of a judge? She blinked. Just once. Her anger cracked like glass under heat. She hadn't thought that far ahead. She was still playing games, still trying to bluff her way into control. But I wasn't bluffing anymore. I'm done negotiating, I said. You gambled everything. You don't get to rewrite the rules after the game ends. She stared at me. Her lip trembled. For a second, I thought she'd scream, throw something, collapse into the floor like the world was ending. But she just left, quietly, without another word. The envelope stayed behind, untouched. That night, she called. I let it ring. The next night, she showed up again. This time, no envelope, just her, standing outside in the rain, crying, knocking. I didn't open the door, not because I was trying to be cruel, but because I'd finally remembered what it felt like to protect myself. The rain stopped just after midnight, but she stayed outside another hour. I watched her through the blinds. She was soaked, shivering, still holding onto the illusion that one final breakdown could undo the wreckage she left behind. I didn't open the door. Not because I hated her. Truthfully, I didn't. I think some small part of me still remembered what it felt like to love her. But that part was quiet now. Tired. Done hoping for something that couldn't be resurrected. By morning, she was gone again. The papers went through 2 weeks later. No courtroom scene. No drawn-out trial. Just a judge, a stack of signatures, and the final stamp of the life we no longer shared. The condo was hers. She'd get to keep it, along with the silence she'd once tried to force into the divorce agreement. But the real win was that I didn't owe her a cent. No alimony. No division of savings. My lawyer said he hadn't seen someone hand over this much leverage and lose it all this fast in a long time. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I repainted the guest room. I donated the couch she used to curl up on with fake apologies. I deleted the email account that had served as the trap, and with it, every message, every digital scar. Not out of bitterness, but because I didn't need the evidence anymore. I already had the truth, and I was done carrying it. One afternoon, I ran into Quinn again, her sister. We bumped into each other at a small art fair downtown. I was surprised she even waved, but she came over, smiling gently. We didn't talk about Leanne. Not once. We talked about books, about work, about how weird it felt to breathe after living in emotional lockdown for so long. She asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime. I said yes. Not because I was looking to jump into something new, but because it felt human, honest, light. And I hadn't felt that in a long, long time. Looking back, I don't think Leanne ever expected me to survive without her. She thought I'd beg, cry, collapse. But instead, I rebuilt. Quietly, carefully, completely. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the person who walks away smugly expecting to win isn't always the one holding the power. Sometimes the one left behind turns the silence into something stronger than revenge. Freedom.